In a very flooded compact SUV market, every single manufacturer has a choice of small, sporty SUVs that you can go out and get. But is the 2022 Hyundai Kona N-Line the best of them all? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to Car Coach Reports. I'm Chris Saeli. Here at the channel, we do more than just provide you with car reviews and first looks. We provide you with car smarts because knowledge is power. So if you like our content, make sure you subscribe and click that little bell below. Today, we're here with the 2022 Hyundai Kona N-Line. I love this vehicle for what it is. I have so many things I want to tell you about this vehicle today, but let's start with, frankly, how good it looks. It's got an absolutely fantastic metallic paint job, really sporty looking 18-inch rims. It's got, albeit they're fake vents, but little vents in the hood to make it look a little bit sportier. It's got the N-Line badges. Overall, it's really sleek, really compact. It looks really, really good. This vehicle has been an absolute blast to drive the last few days. I can't say enough about how impressed I am with this vehicle for what it is, which is a small, compact, sporty-oriented SUV for $27,000. What world can you buy a $27,000 SUV in? If you wanted to go get an Audi Q3, you're probably paying $40,000 for something like that. This vehicle checks all the boxes. It does exactly what it's designed to do. It's quick, it looks good, has utility, rides really nicely, and 35 miles to the gallon on the highway, and that's just the EPA registered rating. Driving this the past couple days, I've recorded a little bit better than that. All around, this thing absolutely stuns in what it's designed to do. So let's check it out. Moving to the interior of the 2022 Kona N-Line, there's really not a lot to talk about in here, and that's okay. It's very simplistic. You know where everything is. There's actual analog buttons, and you're not too reliant upon touchscreen and touchscreen technology. It does have a touchscreen. It has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It doesn't come with navigation built in, but that's okay because it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You're going to use that anyway. The steering wheel is nice, very nicely apportioned with some perforated leather. You do have your toggle switches for your cruise control. It does have lane keep assist, which is actually, it's a really, really good lane keep assist. I'm actually really impressed with how good it is. Most lane keep assist systems are kind of jolty. If they sense that you're leaving the lane, they're going to jerk the wheel back one way or another. The one in this Hyundai is super smooth. It's really, really nice. And if you're driving on the highway and you've got like a long sweeping corner, it just ever so gently keeps you within the lines, and it does tell you if you're not applying enough pressure to the steering wheel, make sure you keep your hands on the steering wheel. The Kona also has forward collision avoidance assistance, which is basically crash preventative forward sensors. What I found really interesting about this, and I thought this was kind of cool, it's sad that we need this in today's day and age because drivers may not be paying attention, but I was sitting at a stoplight yesterday, and the vehicle in front of me started to move forward. And a little light came up on the dash that said forward vehicle advancing. So it kind of was telling me that the vehicle in front of me was moving away, indicative of the fact that you should also then begin to perhaps move away or at least look up as the light green. Kind of a nice feature, honestly. The gear shift is apportioned in really nicely perforated leather. It's got the awesome little N-Line badge on it. Your driver mode switch is down here, and this does have heated seats, which is really nice. And the one thing I really love about this vehicle that you don't see on a lot of cars anymore is an actual handbrake. Why did we ever get away from actual handbrakes? Bring these back. That way we can slide really hard in a snowstorm. They're super awesome. But everything is really nicely apportioned. All your buttons here are great. Your knobs for your climate control are fantastic. Again, it's not too reliant on technology. It feels really good. The shifter feels really good. Everything in the vehicle feels nice, and it's not hard to figure out. You know where it is, and you know what it does. At the heart of our fun little Kona N-Line is a transverse-mounted 1.6-liter turbocharged four-cylinder that makes 195 horsepower, which is more than sufficient. Where you really notice this, and this is one of my biggest tests for automobiles, is when you're merging onto the throughway and you really have to put your foot into it to merge into traffic. This vehicle has no problem whatsoever. And off the line, with it being front-wheel drive and the weight mounted in the front, it gets up and goes really, really nicely. And it's got a good little sound to it as well. I have had no complaints about this engine the last few days, especially, as I said, with the fuel economy being fantastic. It's very peppy. There's really nothing fancy to see underneath the hood other than the fact that it's transverse mounted. Most cars today are all buttoned up really nicely like this. It's not like opening the hood on a vintage Charger or a Mustang and seeing a big chromed out big block. You know, now there's a lot of wires and covers and things like that, but this is, in case you didn't know, where the engine is. So 1.6 liter turbocharged, 195 horsepower, more than enough to get you going. Here we are out on the road with the 2022 Hyundai Kona N-Line. I gotta tell you, this thing really is fantastic to drive. I've got it in sport mode right now. Let's give it the beans. All the way up to 6,000 RPM, and we just hit 60. Really, really smooth, really quick. The throttle is really responsive. The brakes, really touchy. They're good brakes, but you go anywhere near them with any sort of pressure, car takes a total nosedive. Which again, that's not a bad thing. It's just something to be conscious of when you are in stop and go traffic. It's gonna take some time to get used to that. So, all in all though, the ride is really smooth. It's super easy to change through your driver modes. You've got that little knob down there. I would leave it in sport mode all the time. It's fantastic. You get the cool little red gauges, and the car is super, super responsive. I mean, really fantastic. The seats themselves are really comfortable as well. I've got no problem with the seats. The driver's seat is the only one that has power. The rest are all manual seats. The transmission does hang on to gears a little bit too long in the sport mode, you know, but that's kind of what it's designed to do. It keeps it up in the higher RPM so that when you put your foot into the throttle, it's at the right RPM to really take off. So, and it does a good job of that. It really does. The steering wheel feels really nice. It's not too thick, not too thin, very nicely apportioned. And I will say that the steering input when you are in sport mode is fantastic. A little left, little right. It's very responsive overall, especially for being a front wheel drive car. The interior is good, not great. You know, it doesn't have Napa leather like you'd find in an Audi, for example. But that's not what the car is supposed to do. It's not designed to do that, and that's why it's not a $60,000 vehicle. It's a $27,000 crossover SUV, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. There's a lot of room up front. It gets really great fuel economy, and in a world where fuel is $4, $5, $6 a gallon, I drive a diesel truck, so I'm paying over $6 a gallon for diesel fuel right now. This really makes a lot of sense just for a running around car. The car does have the automatic start and stop, which supposedly helps you with fuel economy, but I turned that off, and there's a button to turn that off right down next to the gear shift. I would just recommend doing that. You've got a full digital gauge display. Your tach and your speedometer are all digital. All your information right there, it's all digital. It's basically like having a mini iPad right in front of you. So there's no actual analog gauges, but that's okay because they look analog. They have almost a three-dimensional feel to them, which is really nice. I can't exactly test it while I'm on the road right now, but the sound system in this car is actually really good as well. I was screwing around with it last night, and I turned the volume all the way up, and it kind of put a little bit of pressure on the eardrums. I was actually surprised by that, so it does do a really good job. The ride itself is really, really comfortable, very, very smooth. The steering, as I said, is really tight. Your throttle responsiveness is great, especially in your sport mode. There's really not a lot that I can say about this car and the driving experience that is an adverse thing to say. It's really, really good. And I will say I'm pleasantly surprised by this Kona. I mean, really pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect, you know, and it's exceeded every single one of my expectations for what a $27,000 crossover compact SUV could be. This Kona is phenomenal. It is, and I've said this so many times during this review, but it is so good at what it is. It's set out to attack the sporty crossover SUV market. I would take this any day. Something I do want to point out about this car, perhaps the only downside, but it's really only a downside if you're as big as I am. I'm 6'1". Because it is a compact crossover, the rear seat is a little lacking in space and legroom. So excuse me for the acrobatics while I show you what it's like to get in and out of this car for a person of my stature. Ugh. All right. Now that I'm in here, which was the hard part, it's not so bad for short distances. You've got a reasonable amount of headroom. Legroom is okay. But what I will tell you is this is legroom behind the passenger seat. I got in earlier behind my driving position, and my knees do hit the back of the seat front. Not a problem, again, for most people, but just a reminder that you're not going to be able to fit car seats, strollers, everything in the back of this. If that's the kind of vehicle that you're looking for, there are limitations when it comes to space. So just keep that in mind when buying it. But that is probably the only negative thing that I have about this entire vehicle. Coming around to the rear of the car here, really beautiful lines in the back. Again, in this sunlight, you're really starting to see this color pop. It's a really nice gray metallic. You've got this rear valance. You've got some really nice lines and fake vents over here. The only thing that is a little strange, and I don't know of any other car manufacturer that does this, is your turn signals are down here and your brake lights are up here. So I don't know if that's a flaw. It's really not for me, but it's just something that's worth pointing out. There's tons of space back here in the trunk. It comes with the cargo cover, and the rear seats do fold down to open up a lot more space. The roof rails come with attachment provisions for a roof rack, so if you want to take a kayak or something with you on a great weekend trip, you've got all kinds of space in the trunk. You've got attachment provisions on the roof rack. So all in all, I don't think you're going to find any problems with the amount of space that's back here. A lot of compact SUVs and crossovers have a really sloped roof that cuts out a lot of the trunk space that's usable. This one does not. It's actually got quite a bit of height to it. So a lot of usable space back here. The 2022 Hyundai Kona N-Line goes squarely after the compact sporty SUV market, and it hits the nail right on the head. It comes out in front, in my opinion. It's the perfect blend of fuel economy, usable space, good looks, performance. You name it, this vehicle has it. And then on top of all of that, the price. $27,000 is the MSRP on this, and everything's included. Every single item on that MSRP sheet is an included item from Hyundai. It's not like a Porsche or a BMW or an Audi where you have to pay for seat belts and you have to pay for your door handles and you have to pay for your taillights. Everything is on this, $27,000 out the door, and you've got yourself a phenomenal sporty SUV. The 2022 Hyundai Kona N-Line is the one to have. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you click subscribe below. All of the links to all of our social media content are going to be below. If you have any questions or comments about the video, make sure you post them in the comments below, and we'll do our best to get back to you with answers as soon as we can. Thanks, and stay tuned for more content.